Okay, good morning. If you haven't already, please put in your name, say hi in the chat just to make sure I haven't missed anybody. And I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. So today we are doing something completely different. So if you're still struggling with the calculator, you can come see me during my help hours. We will be revisiting that, but again, we're gonna go slow with the calculator because I'm not able to help you guys in person. Some people still don't have a calculator. But again, if you just got your calculator last night, don't worry, we'll come right back to it and I can help you with what we've already done. So today we're talking about domain and range and your maximum and minimum values. Now, I wish a long time ago when I was in school, I remember specifically being in Algebra 2 and nobody ever just putting it plain and simple. Your domain is just your list of whatever the x's are. And your range is the list of what your y's are. That's it. So I'll probably say that about 5 times today. And I really want to focus on just learning what's going on here. Don't worry about an assignment. Don't worry about anything else. But your domain is just your list of x's. And your range is your list of y's. Something to remember, look for the end. And I just talked about the end. If there's arrows, it goes on forever. I also want you to do this, and I'll write this up here again. I don't like the default setting. I want you to pay attention to the ends. So pay attention to, and I'm going to call it end behavior. So how does the graph look at the end? That's all that means. For instance, and I'm going to make this not bold. I feel like I'm yelling at you guys, or smaller. For instance, what you need to look for is this. Are there arrows? Is it a closed? Is it a closed circle or open? Or is it a closed circle or open? That's what I'm talking about in behavior. All right. So again, today, I just want you guys to start to have the concept or the idea of what is my domain and range going to be? Is it open or closed, and what does that mean? Now, we're going to start real simple. Again, I know you guys did this in Algebra 1. It's also been a long time since you've done that. So we're going to do a lot of examples today. We're going to go through a worksheet together. Instead of giving you that worksheet as an assignment and have you submit it through Canvas, we're just going to walk through this. If you don't understand, you need to ask questions. So the very first thing I want you to do, and again, we're starting off Algebra 1 style on number 1, change to red, your domain and your range. Remember, these are just ordered pairs, kind of like what these are. Your domain is just your list of x's and your range is your list of y's. So I can go through and I can call this like x1, y1. I don't even need the 1s and 2s, whatever. This is another xy, xy, xy. Your domain is just your list of x's and that's it. So your domain is going to be -3, 0, 2, +3. Your range is your list of y's. Again, the order doesn't matter at all. Your range is 2, 4, 5, and 2. But guess what? If I've already accounted for it, I don't have to write it twice. So my range is 2, 4, and 5. Any questions at all there? Domain and range, for the most part, is easy, especially in the beginning. Now, we'll get a little trickier as we go. Any questions at all? Okay. On number 2, if I gave you the graph, you do this the same way. I could go through and I could do this, but it takes a lot of time. I could write all of the ordered pairs. For instance, this ordered pair is -8, 0, but that takes a long time for me to do. That's going to take way too much time. It's going to take way too much time for me to go through and list those ordered pairs. So instead, I want you guys to think of it like this. My domain is my list of X's and Y's, so I'm going to do this real quick. So when I'm doing this, again, I'm just going to think about this left to right, my domain, and you guys should be writing this down as we do this, and I'll do it in a second. Every time I hit this moving it left and right, that's part of my domain. So my domain is -8, -3, 0, 3, 7, and 10. So your domain is just where your X values are. So again, your domain for this one is -8, -3, 0, 3, 7, and 10. Any questions on how I did that without writing all the points? So let's try it the same thing. Let's try it with the Y's. So with the Y's, now I always start left to right and I start high to low, but the same thought process here is whenever I get to one, I write it down. So that looks like it is -4, -2. Again, it doesn't matter if I have one of them, two of them, 10 of them, it doesn't matter. So it's -4, -2, 0, 4, and 10. Any questions there? So your range was -4, -2, 0, 4, and 10. Again, even though there were 2 zeros, I did not have to write them twice. Any questions at all? So one more time, this is where people start to get thrown off, and this is where we're going to go in Algebra 2. So in Algebra 1, a lot of times this is what you did. Let's go ahead and do domain and range of this again. So number 3, I want you guys to see this. So I go left to right, it is a continuous line. It's not discrete. There's not just points. That means all of these are taken up. And notice at the end, you have arrows on both sides. Those arrows mean that it goes on forever. So if I'm moving it left and right, again, it's going to go on forever, which we would call all real numbers. By the way, you guys probably won't want to write all real numbers, so we have a sign in math for that. It's an R with 2 legs, so I draw it kind of like a parallel sign. Then from the outside, I just make an R. So my domain is all real numbers. Those arrows mean it goes on forever. Let's look at the range. Again, how you need to start to look at this stuff is like this. I go low to high. So again, I start off, the lowest it hits is an arrow. It goes on forever. I'm moving it up. I see an arrow again. So something like this, my range is also all real numbers. So remember, I want you guys to think of domain as going left and right, your X's, and range is up and down. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Now, let's talk about this again. We're moving on to something a little bit more with more boundaries, if you will. Well, these should look kind of familiar, and these are a little bit different, but I want you guys again to see how this works. On this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and draw these in here, and then we can move them as we need them. So look at where I'm drawing those lines anyway. I always want to start from left to right. So my domain on this fourth problem, as soon as I hit the graph, I notice that it hits at an arrow. I'm only looking left to right. So it is continuous all the way through, and it ends with an arrow. My domain is still on this one. My domain is still all real numbers. But my range is a little bit different. So my range is different. As soon as I hit, I see arrows. So that means it goes on forever on both sides. But wait a minute, when I'm dragging this up and I'm thinking about it, the highest this ever gets, the maximum value is right here. So if I move it up, my range doesn't get over here. So your range is low to high. So it looks like it goes down forever. And my maximum value is this. That is my maximum value. The vertex creates a maximum or minimum value. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my range are all of my y's below 6. So my range is all real numbers as long as y is less than or equal to positive 6. Again, why is it less than or equal? Because this is the maximum value at positive 6. Just looking at my y values, and then they go down. Any questions there? So I want you to take a second, and I'm going to cold call. I'm going to call on somebody here, so be ready to do this one over here. So if I call this one number 5, be ready. So find your domain and your range for number 5. Again, nobody's going to be upset if you get it wrong, but I want to hear what you think. And I'm going to call on somebody. I already think I know who I'm going to call on. Wait, did I see a question there? I am more likely to call on you if your video is not on, just to make sure that you're paying attention. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. And it's not me picking on anybody, I promise. If we were in class, everybody would talk every day. Okay, now I want to know some reasoning also, and I'm probably going to end up calling on about 3 people. So I'm going to start with Gustavo. Gustavo, go ahead and unmute your mic real quick.
Yeah.
What do you think on this problem? What do you think the domain is going to be here?
All real numbers.
And why do you say your domain is all real numbers?
Because for the x value, it can start at one arrow and then it ends on the other, meaning
Exactly. Now, then that's a perfect, you can stop right there. That's a perfect explanation. He's just moving left to right. So I see left to right, arrow to arrow. We're good. It is all real numbers. Now I'm going to pick on somebody else. I'm going to pick on Henry Self. Now you turned your video on.
Wouldn't it be 2?
So it is 2. So my range, it's got something to do with 2. But remember, your range deals with your y's, right? So this is why I want you guys to say this. So Henry, is it going to be greater than 2, less than 2, greater than or equal to 2, or less than or equal to 2? What do you think?
Wouldn't it be uh greater than 2?
Okay, so he said greater than 2. Does anybody think it's going to be something different other than that? By the way, if again in person, that's how I'd run my class. I let you guys stand and then you kind of discuss or debate that. Latavia, do you think, is he right, first of all? So greater than 2, do you think that he's right, or do you think that it needs tweaked, or what do you think?
I think that it's less than or equal to 2.
Okay, so she thinks it's going to be less than or equal to 2. Does anybody think it's anything different than these two? So these are both different. Does anybody have a different answer? Mary Thompson, what do you think?
I think it's greater than 2.
You think it's greater than 2? Did you say greater than or equal to, or just greater than 2?
Greater than or equal to.
So you think it's going to be that.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. And sorry, you're kind of cutting out just a little bit. That might have been mine. Cassidy, which one of these do you think it is, or do you think it's something different?
I think it's the one that was just said, the y is greater than or equal to 2.
Okay. So I could keep calling on other people, have you defend your answer, but I want to keep going. So let's talk about what makes it, and then you guys again decide. So if I'm over here and I'm moving this bar up, so as soon as I hit this, that's where we get 2. Notice this is a continuous line. So right away, I know it has to be or equal to. So this one is out, because that would imply a closed or an open circle, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So if there's no open circle, it's got to be closed. I know that I didn't explain that real well. Now, I am dragging it up, and notice what happens to my y values. My y values go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and it's continuous the whole time, so it is greater than or equal to 2. All right, thank everybody. I do want to thank everybody for taking a chance there. It's okay, especially in my class and with me. It's okay to be wrong. Take a chance. I want to hear what you think so I know how to better explain it. Now, your domain was all real numbers because it went on forever left to right. Your range was y is greater than or equal to 2. Again, if it opens up, that created a minimum value. Now I want to see what you guys can come up with on number 6. Don't do 7 yet, but I'm going to give you about a minute to do the domain and range on number 6. Okay. Do I have a volunteer, so I don't have to cold call? Volunteer, what do you think your domain is going to be? And again, your domain is your list of x's, your range is your list of y's. So what do I think it's going to be with my domain here on number 6?
I said that the domain is x is greater than or equal to -3.
Does anybody have something different? Well, first of all, I see domain is -3. You got that from right here. I agree with that. Why did you say greater than or equal to -3?
Because then the arrows, they're pointing right, so that means, and since they're going that way and it's arrows, it'll be infinite. Yeah.
Okay, and that's a really good explanation. So she's looking at the arrows, and that's exactly right. So again, trying to speed us up just a little bit, that's exactly right. So she saw, moving left to right, that my smallest value left was at -3, and then as I'm moving right, it's going to be arrows, so it's all values greater than or equal to -3. Can I get a different volunteer to do my range?
I can do it.
Yeah, please, thank you.
I think it's all real numbers
Why do you think it's all real numbers?
because when you move the thing, it touches the arrow, and then when you keep going, it just continues on.
100%. That's exactly right. Good explanation. Now I'm gonna shorten your time here because I want to get to the worksheet. Now try number 7 on your own. All right. Does anybody think they know what their domain is? Somebody I haven't heard from today before I start cold calling again. All right, I'm going to cold call. Catherine Childs, what do you think? I'm sorry, I'm having just a little trouble. I heard x is less than or equal to, and what number do you have here?
-4.
-4. Now, first of all, why did you say less than or equal to? What'd you notice?
Oh, wait, not -4.
Okay, there we go. It should be +4. Now, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So let's just explain this again. If I were dragging this line from left to right, I know that it's arrow, but it stops when I get right here at +4. So it's all values less than or equal to +4. And last one, Darius, what do you think the range is going to be? You there, Darius? We'll check back up on Darius here in just a second. Ian, what do you think the range is going to be? Can you hear me, Ian? All right. We got to talk about that a little bit. I'm trying to save time here. Your range, arrow, remember it's low to high, arrow, arrow. Your range is all real numbers. I feel like we're starting to get this. Let's see. I'm going to quickly go over the next page. So graph the equation, state minimum or maximum. I'm just going to show you, you already know how to do the domain and the range here. Number 1, and I know we haven't talked about this in almost a week. Number 1, what is my vertex? Well, where do I start graphing this at? My vertex is going to be, somebody tell me quickly. No one?
Is it -2?
No, that's your A value. So your vertex is, remember, it's the opposite of what happens to X. So my vertex is going to be -3. It's like saying, what's the transformation? And then up 5. So -3 up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 puts my vertex right here. My A value is -2. By the way, I appreciate you stepping in and taking a chance. My quote unquote slope is -2, which just means it opens down to over 1. You don't really even have to graph it because you know absolute values make V's, so it's going to look something like this. Now notice what I asked, and this is kind of a leading question. I wanted you to graph, state the domain and range, and max or min value. So this is real simple, guys. Your domain, left to right, your domain is all real numbers. Your range is all y's. It opens down, right? So if it opens down, it has to be less than or equal to your highest value. And what's your highest value? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can start, and we'll do more of this tomorrow, but we can start by looking at your vertex. Your vertex is always, this K value is always going to be your maximum or your minimum value. If it opens down, then that's your highest point. This is saying all y's are less than or equal to 5, which makes 5 your highest point. I want you guys to start to make some sense of this. If your A is positive, then now all of a sudden it becomes your lowest point. So let's do number 2. Your vertex is at, what point is your vertex at?
2.
2.
-3.
-3. So again, there's a lot of times where we'll talk about something, then we'll learn something else, and then we'll jump right back to put it all together. This is a perfect example of that. So there's your vertex to -3. How would I graph this? Up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Remember, absolute values make V's. This is part of the reason I want your graph to take up the whole thing. So what is my domain? All real numbers. Exactly, good. And my range, notice it opened up, which makes this my lowest value. So my minimum value is -3. So how do I change that? Once I can find my minimum, what's my range? Y is what?
Greater than or equal to -3.
Exactly right. So this starts to get pretty easy. Now, let me clear that off real quick. All right, so let's go ahead into, why is that not doing that? Let's stop share then. Okay, so let me go into Canvas real quick. Then you should have a domain and range worksheet up there. It's in class resources. Oh, we're out of here at 9:50. We got plenty of time. I thought we were. So domain and range. Let me go back to Zoom and share this. Again, in class, this would have been your assignment. Instead, and notice there's only 5 questions here. So this is kind of my check for you guys. I'm going to give you not a ton of time. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes here to do these 5 problems. I'll scroll down in about 1 minute. So take 3 minutes, make sure you understand this. Then we'll go over it. You don't have an assignment tonight, but remember, we're coming right back to this real soon.
And by the way, Mr. Riley, I don't
Yeah.
know if you heard it or not, but Landon's internet cut off.
Ah, gotcha.
He texted me and wanted me to let you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So while I'm doing that, can you still see the screen or no?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm trying to figure out how I can write on this without changing the slide. Ah, doggone it. Okay. My fault. I was just playing around with it. Didn't work. There it is. All right, I'm going to scroll down. Hopefully everybody has number 1 and 2 real quick, just so you can see number 5. Now, we haven't done an example like number 5. Like I said, pay attention to the in behavior. I want to see if you guys can kind of come up with what it is. I'm going to give about 30 seconds, then we're going to discuss. All right, let's do this. So when we are done, again, if you didn't get this lesson, if you have any questions, make sure that you ask me. You don't have an assignment tonight, but you will be responsible for this. So we will go back over domain and range again a little bit next week. We're really going to jump into it. So on number 1, the first thing you see from left to right, your domain, arrow, arrow, your domain is all real numbers. Your range from bottom to top is all real numbers. So on both of those, anytime you see a straight line and it's continuous, all real numbers, just like that. Number 2 is a little bit different. My domain, left to right, I see arrow, it's continuous arrow. My domain is all real numbers. Any questions on why my domain is all real numbers on number 2? Now my range, again, is going to be different. So if I go from bottom to top, low to high, I've got value, and then it stops. So my maximum value is at +3. So somebody tell me, how did you write that? Allison, what'd you say?
Y is less than or equal to 3.
That's exactly right. Because it opens down, as you guys can see, as it opens down, I want all my values below that or less than or equal to positive 3. Number 3, now that we get into the graphs, this one feels kind of like a pain. So my domain left to right, so it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like it is, my domain is -5, -4, 1, 2. I don't have to account for it twice, 2, and 5. My range, low to high, is -2, -1, +1, +3, +4. Any questions? So you can always absolutely look at it like individual points, but just think left to right, low to high. Sorry, somebody had a question. No? Okay. Number 4, again, this is turned sideways. So my domain, I have value arrows, goes all the way to a closed dot at -1. Somebody besides Allison, because she did it last time, tell me what you got for number 4. Caden, go. What'd you get for number 4?
For the domain,
Yep.
the domain is it negative or x is greater than or less or greater than or equal to -1.
You're really close, really close. The thing is, look at these values, pick a couple. So I've got like -1, -2, 3, 4, 5. So if it's greater than -1, it would have to be on this side.
Okay.
So less than or equal to -1. Again, guys, I will never get on anybody for wrong answers, ever. So please, please, please don't shy off of volunteering. Your range, again, low to high, I see arrow. I see arrow. So it is all real numbers. Now, I do have to warn you guys, the only time, and maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow, the only time when you see arrows on that and it's not all real numbers is if it is definitely just straight across and it goes this way, holding as constant value. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. Number 5 was a challenge question. We haven't done it yet. But notice, ooh, those aren't arrows. But it is continuous. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 5, 6, 7. What did somebody put for their domain for number 5? This is the last question we're doing, then we're done. No volunteers? Oh, come on. So here's what I had for that. So it looks something like this. So my x's were between here and here. So my x's were between this value. So how I write that is my x's were between 5 and 7, right? And it's closed. So again, it's or equal to 7. My x's were between +5 and +7. My y's are going to look real similar. They're between my lowest value and my highest value. So it's going to look like this. And I don't remember what the lowest and highest values were. Does anybody know what was that bottom value? Anyone?
-1 and +5.
Yeah, that looks right. Sorry, I don't have it up in front of me. So -1 and +5. And because they are closed circles, that means I have the or equal to, which means it is inclusive, including those values. If it would have been an open circle, something like this, now all of a sudden my range would be, my y's are between +3 and 4, 5, 6, 7. but it would not have the or equal to. So that's the difference between an open circle and a closed. Okay, sorry, can you guys see that or no? I realized I might have stopped sharing my, oh my goodness. I got too many screens up. Where did my Zoom go? All right. Guys, with that, sorry. With that, I will go ahead and end class.